I hope that you find this workshop helpful, and I hope that you find the rest of the conference valuable as well. I'm going to go over just format for this workshop, do some introductions, then provide a little background history about the Michigan State Police and how we find ourselves here today. We're going to talk about that context, what we've done to expand and adapt our recruiting efforts in hopes of being more effective, process improvements, community outreach and events, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about our women's recruiting seminars. And let me give this qualifying statement. We are not experts. We don't consider ourselves experts. We've made several improvements in how we recruit in order to fulfill our goals. And we've seen some results, but we're constantly striving to improve, and we hope to learn from all of you during the Q&A portion as well. So first, introduction of our panelists. To my right is First Lieutenant Robert Hendrix. He has over 28 years of service with the Michigan State Police. He served as a trooper, a sergeant, detective sergeant, lieutenant. As a lieutenant, he's been an assistant post commander, a casino operations commander, as well as our Detroit Secure Cities Partnership commander. He's currently our first lieutenant in charge of recruiting and selection. Captain Monica Yesh, to his right, 30 years of service with the MSP. She served as a trooper sergeant, lieutenant as an assistant post commander, first lieutenant as a post commander, and she's currently the captain of our 2nd district, which is the Metro Detroit area. She is the originator of our women's recruiting seminars. Both of these panelists are committed to ensuring that MSP is representative of the communities that we serve. A little bit about myself. I've got 23 years in the MSP. I've served at all ranks from trooper to lieutenant colonel. Most of my career has been spent in the field, primarily in the Flint and Saginaw areas, and prior to this current assignment, where I oversee training and recruiting and selection and our forensic science division, I was captain responsible for implementing our policing operations in support of, or in collaboration with, the cities of Flint and Saginaw, those operations aimed at reducing violent crime. A little bit about the MSP. We are a full-service state police agency. We have operations in every county in the state of Michigan at varying levels, to include 911 call response and patrols. We've got approximately 1,900 enlisted enforcement members in our department at all ranks and approximately 1,000 civilian staff. Our hiring patterns have always followed closely with however the economy happens to be at the time. So during good economic times, we're able to hire. During less efficient or more problematic economic times, we haven't been able to hire. We don't have a standard guaranteed staffing level that we constantly strive to meet like some departments do. Our hiring goes with the economy, good and bad. Okay, we're stuck. There we go. Again, a little bit about where we were and how we find ourselves here. In the 1990s, the economy in Michigan was expanding, and we were able to replenish our ranks through hiring. Our ranks that were diminished due to attrition over that period of time. As you can see, we hired approximately 1,000 troopers in the 1990s, and our recruiting and selection processes followed closely what we'd done in the 80s to expand our diversity recruiting and recruiting of women. During the next decade, Michigan experienced a significant economic decline, and we were not able to hire like we had in the previous decade. We even at one point in time laid off troopers. Our trooper strength fell from over 1,300 to roughly 1,000, and then even greater below 1,000 followed that. We were not doing any recruiting to speak of because our resources had contracted, only to provide the services that we could with our reduced resources at the time. We hired very few recruits, and when we did, it was with little time to prepare. We received funding very sporadically, and we had to, we hired from the candidate pool that was already within the process, our hiring process, our testing, the initial test remained open during that period of time, but we weren't actively recruiting. So we did have candidates that were in process, so to speak. So we find ourselves now, 2011, we started to emerge from our economic decline, and a couple of things occurred that caused us to identify the need to expand and focus our recruiting efforts. First of which, through attrition, the diversity in our ranks had diminished significantly. We were provided funding to hire troopers, but we weren't certain to the extent to which that would continue after the initial couple of years. We were asked to expand our policing efforts in a handful of urban areas that had violent crime rates, those areas being Saginaw, Flint, and Detroit. In encountering these issues, we entered into a lot of dialogue about policing, building trust, the importance of prioritizing recruitment of diverse candidates to our agency to ensure fair and effective policing, and to be representative of the communities that we serve. During that period of time, our recruiting and selection was handled by our training division, and the way that we went about passing candidates through the process was largely based on what we'd done in years past for a number of years. So by 2013, 2014, it was apparent we'd continue to receive funding from our legislature and governor to continue to hire troopers. During this time, we're also experiencing quite a bit of attrition, so we're having trouble making any progress in terms of hiring resources. We're more or less keeping pace. Until recently, we've started to go beyond the attrition rate. We added additional resources to recruiting and selection, and we did that by reestablishing a recruiting and selection section unit dedicated solely to those efforts. Standalone units started with 5 or 6 staff. It's been as many as 8 or 9, and that section then reports directly to one of our deputy directors. We selected First Lieutenant Hendrix to lead that group and lead our efforts to increase our minority recruiting and recruiting of women. And this slide just basically shows those periods that I discussed and the progress that we've made. We've obviously made some improvements in attracting and hiring minorities and women. However, we're nowhere close to where we want to be, even though we have improved. So it's a work in progress. And with that, I will turn it over to Lieutenant Hendrix.
All right, thank you, Colonel. Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. Okay, there we go. I'm used to talking to folks, trying to convince them that being a state trooper is what you need to do. So I like feedback when I'm talking to the crowd. Like Colonel Arnold said, we are moving forward, but we are nowhere near where we want to be. We reestablished the recruiting section in 2014, and my goals were to research the best practices for recruiting, to streamline our process, and to significantly improve our applicant pool with diversity and women, and also to increase the use of technology in all of our processes. When we started out, our entry-level exam is administered by the Michigan Civil Service Commission, which is a separate Michigan entity from the state police. So their testing, you also test well for Michigan State Police Trooper, for our motor carrier officer position, for our Department of National Resources section, and our state property security officers. Now, our old tests, we had like a 43% passing rate across the board for everybody, and with minorities it was a lot lower than that. Another thing with the old test, it took 3 to 4 months to score it, and the reason it took so long is that there was an essay portion in that test, and there was one lady throughout the whole state of Michigan that had to sit down and read every one of those essay exams. That's why it took so long to get the results back. just that alone was killing our applicant pool. Now we have an updated test. We're looking at 68.5%, close to 70% across the board of a passing rate. And now they eliminated the essay question. There's a series of different questions to elicit the same information that you would have gotten from the essay. And so now they're scored, we say less than 2 weeks. Sometimes we get those results in about 2 or 3 days, and that helps us to start the process a lot better. We went to a paperless system, which is our NeoGov application process. The applicants now can go online and submit all their information. This process was totally paper-driven. We were able to eliminate our library cart, and literally when I got there, there was a wooden library cart that had little file folders for every applicant. Every time they would come in to do an agility test, they would have to bring their original driver's license, a copy of their license, a copy of their social security card, their marriage license, their divorce decree, their second marriage license, their second divorce decree, because you know we do that twice, 2 or 3 times. So, all of their military information, their DD-214s, all of that, they would have to bring their original one and a copy. We would verify it was the same document, and we would put all of that stuff in the file folder, and then we would wheel that cart down to the gym and do their agility test. And so everything was on this little wooden cart, literally, and we would have to run it up to the administrative wing and then run their license and do their CCHs and all that stuff. So we were able to get rid of all of that. And now the applicants can upload all those documents. We were a little nervous about that at first, but when we're dealing with this younger generation, they're so used to uploading documents anyway, it was easy for them to do that. And also with this new system, the applicants are able to check their status right online. So they don't have to call and wonder where they are in the process. They can just get right on there and know, okay, I'm waiting to go to this next step, or I've passed this step, or whatever the case may be. And we are also able to send direct notifications through this system via email. So my secretary and anybody on our staff is able to send them information saying that, well, we need an additional document, or the copy of your DD-214 was blurred and we need another copy, or anything like that. So we were able to communicate directly with them via email through the system. Since 2012, we participated in over 700 events. We'd say more than half, close to 60%, were in urban areas and the Secure Cities Partnerships areas that we now have troopers in, helping those local agencies with their violent crime. So we just don't want to be in those areas just arresting folks. We want to let them know that we're there to also try to solicit them to become troopers in our agency as well. We've did some road shows, that's what we call it. So our entry-level exam is normally only given in 3 locations throughout the state. We've taken that test in other areas, such as our Secure Cities Partnerships areas, and able to administer those tests there. We also do agility testing off-site, where they don't have to come to Lansing all the time to do those at our gym. We partnered with some colleges, and we can do it at their gyms as long as the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Services gives us the approval to do that. And our pre-screening interviews, we take those on the road too and do them in different areas. Because in Michigan it's illegal to do polygraphs for hiring purposes. I know folks look at that like, how do you hire people if you can't do a polygraph? We would love to do that, but we can't. So we combine a bunch of different data that we get from the applicants themselves and compare all that data to make sure that it's consistent. And that's our way of doing a quasi polygraph. pre-screen interview, it's 62 questions. There's 2 people from my staff that sit across from the applicant and ask them different questions about building trust, their employer, school, theft, drugs, sexual assaults, prejudices, customer focus, use of force, all of those kind of things. And in 2014, when I got there to take a look at our processes, the form was so old, there was something on there about downloading music, and we had to get rid of a lot of questions. So really there was like 20 to 30 more questions in this pre-screen interview. And normally if the candidate is forthcoming and there's nothing that we have to question them further on, that takes maybe 15 minutes. So the reason we take that on the road is because we try not to have them drive to Lansing, and for some people that could be 2 hours. If they're from the UP, it would take them 4 hours to drive down to Lansing at our headquarters just to have this 15-minute questionnaire asked about them in order to move forward. Community outreach, in addition to the road shows and taking different things out there on the road, we've worked with different groups and leadership areas. We have community service troopers that already work in our schools, anywhere from elementary all the way up through high schools, and they're there to teach different things about gang resistance and team and all those sort of things. So we use those as partnerships as well. In addition to meetings throughout the states with our all-PAC groups, which are the advocates and leaders for police and community trust, these groups were brought together not when there was an issue, but these groups are brought together now that there's nothing going on in these communities, so that we can make the relationships we need, so that if something does happen in those areas, we already know who to talk to, who to call, and who to make connections with, and if there's something that needs to be resolved. We have partnerships with our faith-based community, our community organizations such as all-PAC, our colleges and universities, and also our military personnel. We go and do a lot of presentations during drill weekends, whenever they're deployed, and if they're coming back, we're usually there to talk to them. If they're cycling out of the military, we want to be there to give them an option that we're available, and that this will be a good fit for them to come to our agency. Some other things that we've done to update and reflect the diversity in our agency is we changed a lot of our rack cards, which is one of them that Captain Yesh is holding right now, our different posters and our website. And here's a couple of photos of things that we've done. This one, we had the trooper out on the road just to show the females that a lot of times they do a better job than us guys do. And showing diversity on the back of that card is the to show what the agency looks like. Different posters that we have that we placed in different areas throughout the state. A lot of the colleges, career fairs, and different areas like that. There's another poster that took us forever to shoot that, to get that blur on the side of the thing, but it was good. Our photographer, he's mounted it on the push bumper. It was sort of fun to do that one. Our web banner. And as we're going around talking to different folks, a lot of people jump into the agency because they want to get into the shooting and the guns and, rappelling off buildings and helicopters. And yeah, we have all of those toys as well. But the video I'm about to show really depicts what our agency is about. And it's more than just arresting folks. Being a state trooper in Michigan, we are definitely dedicated to our communities and being part of the community, and actually we're just there to help them, and we're part of these communities. We all grew up in Michigan at some place and time, and these are the things that we want to show people that our agency is all about.
Pretend like there's music.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know how that got off track like that. Because normally the music goes to the end of the video. Okay, that's up north. That's Traverse City. One thing that we found is our best recruiters are our troopers that are out on the road. And our director says that we're all recruiters. So everyone in the agency is representing the agency and should be recruiting folks. Our best product is them seeing us out there. You know, we spend a lot of time, you know, talking to folks, and the way that you treat people is what makes them want to come join your agency. So what we try to do is make sure that everyone knows and everyone has the information that they need to answer the questions, or at least send them to my section so that we can get them all the information they need. What we found is that our troopers are the ones that give us the most bang for our buck. Before spending any money on social media or different ads and things like that, it's just what they do every day out on the road is what draws people to our agency. Some of the obstacles and fears are that we're an elite agency, and for those of you who are not from Michigan, we're a pretty big deal in Michigan. Okay, all right. And with that, a lot of people really don't think that they can qualify for our agency, or that they're not wanted or they're needed. And what we have to do is let them know that they can. We're one of the few agencies, especially in Michigan, that all you have to have is a high school or a GED. We don't require any college right now, but it does help you when it comes to the academic portion in our trooper recruit schools. But we want to make sure that we let folks know that we are actively looking for minorities and women, and that they're needed, they're valued, and they're wanted in our agency. Another fear in our agency was post assignments. When I came in 28 years ago, I grew up on the east side of Detroit, and one of our fears is that they were going to send us up to the UP. And for those of you who don't know, this is Michigan, and the UP is up here, and you didn't really want to, well, I'm not from there. Captain Halpin right there, he's from up there. But when I came in years ago, they used to send us at least 100 miles from where we came from. And our thought back then was we wanted to get you out of your environment, send you 100 miles away so that you would have no distractions in learning your job. What we found now is that that's not the best thing for our recruits. We try to send them back to where they came from. If we can't send them back exactly where they came from, we try to put them within a commutable distance so that they won't have to move, they won't have to uproot their families or anything like that, and still be able to learn and do their job. The third biggest fear is swimming. We're in a car most of the time, but Michigan is known as the Great Lakes State. And anywhere within the state of Michigan, within 15 minutes, you can be within a body of water. So you may have to do a water rescue. We have a very robust water safety program. At our training academy, we call what you would call a pool, that's our tank. Because you train in a tank. You have fun in a pool. We don't have, we train in our tank. So, and take it from somebody, again, from the east side of Detroit who didn't grow up with a pool. I drank chlorine every day, but I made it through it. And once you get through that, you want to make sure that you know what your limitations are, what you can and what you cannot do, and what you can and what you can use to save somebody if you need to effect a rescue. And pretty much that is it for my section. Captain Yesh.
I'm a little shorter than he is. That's okay. I want to shout out to Chief Riley from Inkster, because some of that video was made in your city, and we appreciate that. I also want to talk about a really good partner that we've had, Deputy Chief Hart from Novi. Been an excellent partner when we talk about working in our communities. So thanks for being here. What I first want to talk about is why I came up with how I came up with the women's seminar, and it seems pretty basic. But being a female in our agency, I'm getting close to retirement. I'll be retired next year, and I think it's part of my job to make sure that we continue recruiting women in our agency. Obviously, as we go through these slides, we're about 10% women, and there's a heck of a lot more than 10% of the population that are females, and we have a role in our agency. So I put together a focus group of ladies in Southeast Michigan, which is where I'm responsible for, and we sat together. I brought in road troopers, I brought in detective troopers, undercover, black females, white females, Hispanics, and we sat down in a room and we were trying to figure out what we can do to recruit women, because we all think it's very important. So one of the things that we came up with is that as a female, you're often intimidated by the uniform, or you don't think you can do the job, or you don't think that you'll qualify, or that you need to see other people like you who are doing the job already and listen to their stories. So I came up with the first women's recruiting seminar, which was on Saturday, March 19th at 10 a.m. And I say that because in March was a perfect opportunity to have one of these. I thought about what time of year it would be great to have these seminars to get the most participation. So in March, we had approximately 300 women attend the women's seminar up in Troy. And it's, I'm sorry, at Schoolcraft College, but our subsequent seminars, we've averaged about 150. We had one today, that this is the first one I've missed. We had one today in Livonia, and I feel kind of bad that I'm not there, but I'm so happy to be here. So with that, which one are we hitting here? So what I decided to do was I had to try to figure out what was going to work and what was not going to work. And so the process, my thought process was to have some people who we wanted to target people who may be very interested in becoming involved in law enforcement. We wanted to target people who, maybe, and people who had absolutely no idea that they wanted to go into law enforcement. So those are the people that we wanted to get to the seminar. I wanted to dispel any myths that there may have been out there about why women, or what happens to women in law enforcement. So I wanted to bring in people who were small in stature, people who were tall, people of all sizes and shapes. I didn't want women to think just because you're a certain makeup that you couldn't make it through recruit school. So we brought in physical. I thought physical size was important. I also thought we need to bring in moms, because there's a myth out there that you can't be in law enforcement and be a mom at the same time. And we have many women in our agency that are doing both. I also thought it was important that we bring in women who went through recruit school who have children, because in the Michigan State Police, we're in recruit school from Sunday to Friday night. So you better have a really good support system at home to take care of those children. But we wanted women to know that it can be done. So I thought I need to bring some of these ladies in as well. So what I did, we brought all these ladies in. We had over 300 people in the room that were listening to us. And I had each woman come up and talk about what their problems were in recruit school, if they had any. Some of us, myself included, I went to a recruit school and I had some issues and I had to have some surgery, and then I had to come back for the second one, which, by the way, is like the toughest thing you could ever do, because you know what you're already into and you have to come back and do it again. And so we do lose people in recruit school, and I wanted those people to be in there as well. I brought in all walks of life, and I wanted people to understand that you didn't have to go to college for criminal justice. You could have went to college for something else. You could have been anything, and then changed direction. So I brought in women from our agency who were college athletes, who were mothers, who we have actually professional athletes, professional basketball players in our agency, school teachers, people from small towns, people from our Upper Peninsula, where Lieutenant Hendrix already talked about, and that's where men are men and the sheep are scared.
That's why I didn't go up there.
And we needed to have a diverse candidate. So again, I brought in our black females, our Hispanics, our Asians, and our white females. And the way I kind of put it together was we'd have them, we had everyone in the audience, and then each person, we would take and choose up to 5 or 6, and you come up and you talk about your time, like what you did and the problems that you had. And the women that were in there, and they still continue to do this, they're very engaged, and they want to know, and they want to listen to hear what we have to say. I bring in the person, because I'm old, so we bring in a recruit or a probationary trooper who just got out of recruit school to talk about the changes in recruit school. And we have a saying in our agency, the last recruit school is blank. Whatever recruit school you were in, that was the last toughest recruit school we have. So we always bring in that person from the last one to talk about their experiences. And then I get up and I talk about my experiences of 30 years in law enforcement. Again, this is where I would insert that I started when I was 12 and hope that you guys believe me that I was that. We take that time, we talk about it a little bit, we put them out on a break, and they have an opportunity to go out in the hallway and talk on a one-on-one, because not everybody wants to get up and talk in front of people. So that's what we do. I've also had some people come up to me and say, well, why are you doing this just for women? And usually, honestly, it's a white male who will say that to me and say, well, why? Well, this is, discrimination against, well, you're more than welcome to come to our women's seminars. I don't have a problem with that. But this is the thing. Unless you're a female and you have someone up there talking to you, you may not believe in yourself. But when you have a female up there saying, hey, this is what you can do, I did this, I did that, these women absolutely do believe in this system, and they do believe that they can accomplish the same thing that you do. The also thing is the mother part. I mean, being a mom is very difficult, and very few guys know what it feels like to be a mom. So I think it's important to bring that in and have them talk to moms. So I say that back to everyone who kind of doubts why we have a women's seminar, because it's geared for women to understand that they can do this job. I love what I do, and I love the Michigan State Police, and Bob's right, we are an elite agency, but there's a lot of really good agencies in our state, and I absolutely love it, and I want them to see that on everyone's faces as they get up and they talk about that. So that's why I think it's important to have just women. What we do to try to promote ourselves so that we have a good turnout is we do news releases. We promote the event on social media, on the TV and the radio. We have a really good public information officer in Southeast Michigan for the Michigan State Police. As a matter of fact, he goes to the doctors for an appointment, and one of the ladies in the office asked for his autograph. If that didn't make his head a little bit bigger, I don't know what did. But he does a really good job of getting it out on TV. He's talked on our news stations, and we do that about 3 months ahead of time so that everyone knows that it's coming. And then as we move closer to the event, we start, obviously where we put it on our departmental calendar, and we put it also on our websites. So that when you go on, you can click on it and you'll see what it is. Our recruiter does an awesome job. She goes out to college campuses. She emails students. She talks to our CJ, our criminal justice instructors within the colleges. She goes to churches. She goes to fitness centers, so community newsletters. So another area that we decided to focus on was college sport teams, like basketball, softball, hockey. We play hockey in Michigan. We have a women's team at most of the colleges and universities, or some private ones. So it's important to get out to them. Maybe they might be interested in those as well, a job in law enforcement. So we do that as well. On the day of the event, this is kind of a critical component of it. We have everybody sign in. We have them give us their email address, and we keep them updated throughout the process on their hiring status. So I don't want you just to come to the seminar and get this information and say, hey, we really like to have you, and then we're not invested in you anymore. So what we do is we give you emails. We'll send you emails. Where are you at? Where are you at in the process? Is there anything we can do? Did you pass your test? Oh, you didn't pass your test? Well, maybe we can help you. We give you resources to maybe help take the test again. And that's how we do it, and that's why it's one of the more critical points, because you can't just leave them. You can't leave them hanging in the wind. So because some of them may not have ever considered a job in law enforcement, and now that they've gone to this, maybe now they've got that thought in their mind. So we do that, and that's one of the more important things to do. Not only just to get them there, to let them see what each and every one of us do and give them our story, but it's also to follow up with them. So I talked about speakers and so forth, and our speakers, we bring in, like I said, we bring in diverse speakers and so forth. The young gal there on your left, Trooper Chang, she came to one of our seminars in Troy, Michigan, which is near Detroit, and she wanted to get involved in human trafficking, so she just came to our seminar not thinking she ever wanted to be a state trooper. And she listened to us, and she heard our stories and how and where we got that day, that she became very interested in becoming a state trooper. And then within a year, she was a state trooper, and she put her mind to it, and now she's out in our Thumb area. But she comes to our speaker, she was there today to tell people that, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, you can do this job if you have the heart. So she's been extremely helpful with that. We also have a question and answer panel. On your right-hand side, as you can see, we bring in a diverse group. We have undercover officer, well, we have detectives in there, we have road troopers, we have post commanders in there, we have someone from our gaming, someone from internal affairs, someone from our forensic science division. And we bring all them in, we sit them on the stage, and I walk around with a microphone. And nothing's probably more intimidating than having some strange person stick a microphone in your face to ask a question. So I try to keep some levity to it, try to throw in some humor. I don't know if you guys are old enough, but some people call me Sally Jesse Raphael as I'm running around in the audience and asking questions. But I think it's important for them to be able to feel comfortable to ask the questions, and they get very private. And that's why I say that's why we have a women's seminar, because there are some private questions that they ask. And those are things that are on their mind. And it's very important for us to be able to answer those types of questions. So we do that as well. During our break, we have departmental displays. On your left-hand side, you'll see the Forensic Science Division. And Captain Beth Clark, who's in the audience today, she presents at these, and then she has her personnel talk to potential applicants about the civilian side and the enlisted side of the Forensic Science Division, which is extremely important in the Michigan State Police because we provide all forensic science for almost all the departments in the state. On your right-hand side, we have a canine demonstration. We have a female canine handler, and she does an excellent job. She's actually out of the last tough recruit school that we ever had, which was mine 30 years ago. She does a tremendous job, and she comes in and explains, you can do a canine, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. We have a female who comes in and talks about the motor unit. She actually drove the Harley-Davidson motorcycles in our motor unit, and you know, some women find that intriguing. I don't. But I'm sure there are other women who want to do that. So what are our results? So since 2014, we've graduated 41 females in our trooper recruit schools. And that's a good jump from where we were a few years ago, and you saw that from the earlier statistics. Currently, we have 15 females in our 133rd Trooper Recruit School, and they graduate in November sometime. We started out with a few more than that, and some of them have gone for various reasons that we've talked about, for some medical issues or whatever, and hopefully we'll get them back. But 15 females is pretty good in our recruit school right now. So as of September 2017, Michigan State Police has 1,945 enlisted members, 195 females, which is about 10% of our workforce. So obviously we have work to do because we need to have more females in our agency. As they go through recruit school, I think it's important. One of the things that I've done, and I personally think this is something that we all need to do as members of our agency or your agency, and that is to, I've given my phone number and my cell or my email address out to people in recruit school, and I've asked them, hey, if you're having a bad day and you think you want to quit, you text me or call me. And we have many other women who do the same thing. And we don't talk about recruit school itself. We don't talk about the instructors. We don't talk about anything like that. But you know, I'll meet with them on occasion for a breakfast on a Saturday morning when it's hard. And they'll call us or text us, and we give them that push. We give them that nudge. You can do this. You can do this. And that's kind of very important in keeping the ladies in our ranks as well as we get through recruit school. So 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of female troopers in the state police. So we weren't allowed in the agency until 1967, where we had these two females right here. And I talk about this with our ladies in our women's seminar. Those were our two first females. As you notice, they have the nifty little culottes going on and a little skirt and a little nursing hat. And that's what women got to wear. We were only allowed to do juvenile type crimes and interview kids and so forth. But we've come a long way in 50 years. And as you are aware, in 2017, Colonel Christy Kibiechu is our director. She was the first female director of the Michigan State Police, and she leads by example, and she does a tremendous job in making sure that we continue to diversify ourselves, which is extremely important. Here's just one of our this is, you saw this earlier, but I'm going to show you this video. This is a video of our women's seminars, which now we're not just having in Southeast Michigan, but we're having a few of them across the state. And I am not real smart on this, but let me see if I can get this.
And that's the shape that you have to be in, and that's the mindset that you have to have. That'll get you through recruit school, that'll get you through your shift, that'll get you through your career. I'm a recruiter with the Michigan State Police, and we're talking one-on-one with women that are interested in possibly becoming a Michigan State Police trooper. So I don't think a lot of women realize just how many different opportunities there are for them. There's various opportunities just from school, resource officers, to dive team, to K-9, to aviation, to security details, gaming, undercover work. The work is endless that women can do and provide their community and others in law enforcement, and that's why we're looking for more women to join our ranks.
We have a wide variety of women here today to talk about their experiences in the state police. We've had lieutenants, troopers, sergeants, K-9 unit. Myself, I'm from Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division, just to share our experiences with young women and get them interested in a career in law enforcement.
And I think having great examples of females in the field to talk to before joining the department was a big push for me, because you know, a male-dominated field didn't deter me, but it's nice to see, okay, there's other women who have done it before me, and there's no reason why I can't do it as well.
You know, there's so many fields within the department that you can promote to or transfer to, either a specialty or getting off the road and working in the schools or the lab, or to be a pilot or polygraph or canine handler. But to do all that, you still have to have that, the desire to want to do it. You can't do it for someone else.
It's exciting to be able to talk about what motivated me back then and what motivates me to stay. I just find it really exciting, and I love to share my experiences, and it's been great hearing the experiences of the other women who I've known for many years and never heard their stories. So it's a great opportunity. I appreciate being able to come out.
I love when I know that we have 80 plus applicants that had reserved a spot to come out and hear what we have to say. That lets me know that, hey, we do have women out there in the community that are interested in our agency, and it is our job to come together, get them a wealth of information so that they can enter into the department as a Michigan State Trooper.
I guarantee you, hands down, it will be better than any other job you will do, without question.
Okay, and I know that some of you may have departments and you say, oh, I don't have that many women, I can't do this, but I highly recommend that maybe you get with some of the other agencies in your area and have a women's seminar. I know we're all competing for the women to join law enforcement, but if you don't have the ability to have this many women, then look around in your communities to find out if you have, because I know in Michigan I would be happy to go out and talk and work with other agencies. So that's our presentation, but we certainly have time for questions and answers if anybody has any. I don't see a microphone in the middle of the room, but we'll certainly listen to it. There's no questions? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. We still have a pretty high retention rate, and I can't tell you what that is, but we do lose a few here and there. Out of my recruit school, we had, believe it or not, 30 years ago, we had 26 females graduate out of our recruit school, and most of us remained our whole 25, two-thirds. I don't have the numbers in my head, but it's something that we need to work on. Because sometimes moms say, okay, I'm going to go back once they have a kid, and they don't come back. But it's something we need to continuously work on. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
In regards to retention, I'll follow up with some information. I'm past president of the National Association of Women Law Enforcement Executives. That's not just for executives, but women who aspire to be in the leadership position. I strongly believe you have to see to be. So if you see somebody in those top positions, you can make it there. So as far as retention in my agency, we actually bring 2-year officers, 4-year officers to the NOLI conference each year so that they can see that they can promote into those organizations, into your organization. So my biggest thing is whether you have, as leaders in this room, you need to promote organizations such as NOLI, such as the International Association of Women Police, WICL, Women in Federal Law Enforcement, and support your women in your agencies to become members of that. And then I would also say, forward-thinking males that are in this room, to also join those organizations. We have males that belong to NOLI. They come to our conferences. They're able to see and hear. So I just throw that out as another method for retention, is supporting those efforts to those organizations, which you get a very big net derived benefit back to the organization.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Regarding hiring standards, physical standards, I know that they tend to be heavy on the upper body strength and females have more lower body strength. Have you modified any of your physical standards?
Our standards are, our agility test is age and gender norm. So coming into our agency, a female of a certain age or whatever, she doesn't have to do the same amount of push-ups as her male counterpart. So, but once they get to recruit school, we expect everyone to do the same thing. It's just that's all they are required to do just to get into the agency.
Cooper standards?
They're set by MCOs, the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. And I don't think they are the Cooper standards, so yes, ma'am. Anything else? Well, go ahead.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, thank you for your undivided attention. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you.